Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have a very exciting news to share that my cake won first place in the Royal Adelaide Show cake decorating competition this year. I entered the craft theme as I had the idea of creating decorations inspired by sewing, knitting, crochet and similar craft. So today I'll show you step by step on how I made this craft theme cake. There are quite a lot of elements, but I'll guide you through each one. Let's get started. Step 1. Covering the cake board. So I pressed my fondant on the texture board, which already had some textured design like flowers, gingham and wave patterns. I also used a brand new anti-slip mat which created a lovely texture. I pressed different colored fondant onto those patterns to create a patchwork quilt effect instead of a plain fondant covering. Then I used square cutters so all the pieces were the same size and glued them onto the board with pilot glue. Step 2. Making the sewing machine. I first shaped the base to fit perfectly on the top tier. I hand molded everything, no silicone molds, just my hands. It took me quite a while to create the perfect shape of a sewing machine. I pressed and shaped it a few times. I used a pink fondant for this because I wanted the whole cake to be on a feminine side but also colorful. To give some support to the sewing machine, I inserted some floral wires. Once the base was ready, I attached the sewing machine and added some extra vintage style fondant decorations. To keep the top part from drooping, I placed a tissue ball underneath for support. Step 3. The craft basket. For the basket, I colored my fondant brown and used a silicone mold. I love silicone molds because they create realistic textures that are difficult to achieve by hand. So I attached the fondant basket panels to 4 sides of styrofoam with tailor's glue. Then I rolled thin purple fondant paste, press it on a texture mat and place it on top of the basket to look like fabric. Then I completed the basket with more panels on top. Step 4. Buttons and woolen items. I used a button mold to make colorful fondant buttons. I also shaped a pair of scissors from grey fondant, which I later painted in silver. For the woolen items, I created a mitten, a beanie, and a jumper using a silicone mold for the textures. I added small white fondant details to make them pop. Step 5. Spools and yarn balls. For the spools and yarn balls, I used 3 colors: yellow, blue and salmon. This step was quite time-consuming and actually hurt my fingers because fondant extruders are tough to use, but I managed. I made the spools from brown fondant, then wrapped thin fondant thread around them. And for the yarn balls, I wrapped the fondant ropes around small balls to complete the look. For the pin cushion, I poked tiny holes into the fondant cushion with floral wire, then added 3 pins with different colored fondant balls on top. Step 7. Covering the top tier. So I covered my top tier with green fondant and placed it on the basket. I also added a blue fondant blanket with a knitted texture draped over the top. I attached the sewing machine on the very top of the tier, and to add more details, I marked crisscross patterns with a cake smoother, then emphasized them with a zipper roller. I also made another spool of thread for the sewing machine and added a small piece of fondant fabric with an impression mat pattern. Then I brushed with luster dust for a shiny effect. I also painted the sewing machine with edible gold and silver paints, including the base and the scissors. Step 8. Adding more decorations. I attached the yarn balls, 2 on the top and 1 on the board, along with the woolen items, the spools, scissors and buttons. Step 9. The writing. One of the competition requirements was to include a name or message, so instead of a simple happy birthday, I made a fondant measuring tape and added the message crafting joy since 1945. You may ask why 1945? Because joy is turning 80. Step 10. Knitting needle and rug. For the rug, I pressed pink and blue fondant onto ropes silicone molds, lined them up alternatively, and placed this on top of the basket. Then I hooked more ropes one by one to the knitting needle to make it look realistic. Step 11. Ugg boots. Since I still had space on my board, I decided to make mini Ugg boots. I used dark brown fondant for the base, created stitch details with this fondant tool, and added a fluffy white fondant top covered in crushed sugar. I also added the Ugg logo on the back of the boots. Step 12. Final details. I also added a woolen scarf to complete this craft theme design using pink and white fondant. The night before submitting my cake, I thought it would look more realistic if I added a piece of thread coming from the sewing machine. So I cut wafer paper very thinly and attached it from the spool down to the bottom part of my machine. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and picked up some new tips and ideas. If you are new here, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.